Welcome back to Wake Up America. I'm Rachel Roller. Vice President Kamala Harris is set to hold a joint discussion on women empowerment with former President Bill Clinton today. Our next guest is slamming that event, saying it's, quote, obscene to discuss this topic with someone who's been accused of sexual misconduct by multiple women. So joining us now to discuss is former actress, activist, and author of the book Brave, Rose McGowan. Rose, welcome to Wake Up America.
Thank you for having me.
We thank you for joining us. Now, you say that Vice President Harris is showing who she really is with this announcement. What kind of messaging do you think it sends to women and girls?
I think it sends to humans the wrong message, let alone women and girls. It's exactly what I said in my tweet. It is obscene. This is a farce. It's kind of like how everybody was like, oh, they're going to kill Epstein. And then they do. Oh, they're going to do this. And then they do. And they don't even care to hide it anymore. They don't even care to hide it.
Yeah, that decision received a lot of backlash of people just wondering why she couldn't have picked anyone else to do that conversation with. But let's switch gears. Let's talk about another politician accused of sexual misconduct, Governor Andrew Cuomo. People have already started the narrative that his accusers will have a tough time getting hired after coming forward. Now, Rose, I know you went to bat for every woman who has felt this way, essentially every human who has felt this way, essentially derailing your own career for it at the time. Can you speak to that?
I think it's a travesty that these women will have a hard time getting hired because of what a man did or a perpetrator, anybody of any gender did. And that's sick. And that's a sickness in our society that we need to reflect upon. I knew when I came out against Weinstein and made it my mission to take him down that I would have to lose everything. And I did. And that's okay. But you have to be prepared to basically start from scratch, hustle, and figure out a life that is completely different than the one you knew. And it is so incredibly unfair because these women, think of the achievements and how hard it was to achieve what they had to achieve to get in that office in the first place. In this, it's just so exhausting cleaning up after perpetrators and having our lives derailed because of their actions.
And exhausting, as you said, to have to start over. As you mentioned, how much work it took to get to that point. I know your career, of course. Now, I want to talk about Harvey Weinstein for a second. He's now been in prison for just over a year. I've noticed in so many interviews that you've done, Rose, sometimes you don't even mention him by name. Sometimes you refer to him, but you won't say his name. His victims largely have you to thank, of course, for that prison sentence. But before that, he was presumably untouchable, if you will. And many people are saying Governor Cuomo's now untouchable. Society put him on this pedestal at the early days of the pandemic, and it doesn't appear he wants to come down from that. How difficult is it, do you think, to actually break through that power struggle?
Breaking through that power structure is incredibly difficult. These power mongers, they're sociopaths. They want power at all costs. That is the end goal. It's not about people staying alive in nursing homes. It's not about not doing special COVID test treatments for your fancy friends and brother who's got a show on CNN. It's not about that. Or sexual harassment. It's literally about staying in power. Sorry, my dog is doing something funny.
I had a feeling. You're good. No, that's how TV goes these days in these virtual interviews. But no,
I know.
It is another one, just one of the other additional things that Governor Cuomo's faced. You mentioned the special treatment with his family just coming out, the nursing home scandal, and now multiple women accusing him of sexual misconduct and harassment. Now, it is important to note the allegations against Harvey Weinstein, let's say, and against Governor Cuomo are very different. Accusers, those allegations are varying in severity, varying in scale. One accusation of groping made by an unidentified woman will reach the level of a crime. So how is it, though, that you think back in 2018, we probably all remember, Cuomo said, we owe it to the American people to believe survivors. He's now switched that a bit now to a much different response. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are he's just an opportunist who, again, wants to stay in power any way he can because that's what he loves. I don't think he cares for his constituents. I don't think he cares for New York State. I think he cares for his power. And when you harass women, and it's just exhausting. It's like I said before, it's like daily. You're like, if these women are scared to go in his office because they're scared, they don't know what's going to happen. They don't know if he's going to turn into a Weinstein. They have no idea. They don't know where it leads. And to always have to walk on eggshells of maybe being groped or have something creepy said to you, yes, there are different levels of predation. It is not on the level of that we know of like a Harvey Weinstein. But it goes to show how little they value not just women, but just humans and people, the little people, the ones that are faceless, the ones that the public doesn't see. That's who he devalues. And it shows you, they show you who they are. We just have to, as a society and as a public, believe it and see it.
That's such an interesting point you make, too. For the people in that position, you don't know what it leads to, even if it is a different situation. And Rose, the Me Too movement had so much momentum in 2017. It created a safe space for women to speak out, to share their stories. You, of course, have, though, recently spoken out against that movement. What do you think happened to it?
Well, I think, no offense, but the media called it a movement. But my movement, I always called it the cultural reset. It was a cultural reset. And that's what I was after, kind of like exploding TNT, letting the explosion fall and see if we can become a better world, right? Mm-hmm. Me Too is a communication tool. Did this happen to you? Me too. That's what it is. But as far as movement goes, I mean, what happens is there's a lot of very powerful men and women that aid and abet these men in the media and in government. I mean, look at Joe Biden with the allegations against him. They have it, they push back. When you push at power, it pushes back. But it's just such a short period of time, but it was a global reckoning. And the reverberations are still being felt. But again, to conflate it with a movement, I mean, sometimes I felt like I was alone, totally out there on my own as the movement. And other people were doing performative justice. Mm-hmm. Like, as long as they said the right things, did the right things, went to award shows of black dresses, then they're really fighting this problem. I disagree with that.
I understand it. It became this bandwagon. No offense taken as what you said. I do think, in a sense, you're right. It's become something that people felt they had to get involved in for the moment because it was topping headlines that day. And then we saw a new news cycle and it got left behind. You did mention President Joe Biden. I know you and Tara Reid have spoken. We did talk to her on this show, Wake Up America, as well. What are your thoughts about how her story was handled and then essentially forgotten as well?
I don't think it's so much forgotten, Tara Reid's story, as it's been a blanket silence and spin from the media, from left-wing media primarily, and the refusal to believe that somebody who's a Democrat can do something bad is patently absurd. It's absurd. Why is it so hard to believe that somebody with a complex life, who had their life largely ruined by their alleged attacker, has had a convoluted and crazy and hard life? Not everybody's had an easy time of it, but it doesn't discount their story and it doesn't discount their truth. But it shows you just how much the media, the mainstream media, is in lockstep with Democrats. And I am neither a Democrat nor a Republican. I'm politically against kind of both, really, I suppose. But I would rather someone own who they are instead of pretend they're sheep. I mean, they're wolves in sheep's clothing, the Democrats.
No, and I appreciate that.
And I think we just need to see them.
That distinction. And we have about 30 seconds left, and I want to ask you real fast. I know you're now a permanent resident of Mexico. Congratulations on that. Did you leave because of the Hollywood cult-like feeling or because of the politics in the country and how divisive they've gotten?
I left America because of its toxicity, because it operates like a cult, like the cult of Hollywood, as I've called it many times, because it's such an insular media. You don't give news from around the world. People don't know much of the outside world unless they've traveled, which is a small percentage of Americans compared to how rich it is. And right now it's hard and it's even more toxic than ever. And I just thought, I had dealt with enough of toxicity in my life in Hollywood. I've had quite enough, and I deserve some distance and freedom. And for me, I'm still fighting the good fight. I'm still in there slugging it out, but I just didn't want to personally take in the toxicity. And it breaks my heart that there's so much of that it is so divided. But I will say this, on Twitter, I get a lot of messages from Republicans that are like, I don't agree with this that you say or that you say, but I respect you and I respect that you tell the truth. I don't get that from Democrats. You have Republicans following you on Twitter. I'm unfollowing you. I thought we were supposed to talk to each other. We need to grow up. We need to talk to each other and see where we can help each other where we can. And the fact that we are human before we are anything else, before we are political affiliation, before we're gender. And that's what I think we need to remember. And that's what I think has been forgotten.
An excellent reminder. And I know so many people appreciate all that you do in that fight that you're now doing from Mexico. We really appreciate you joining us here on Wake Up America this morning. Rose McGowan, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
Hi, Emma Reckenberg here. If you like this video, there's a whole lot more to see on Newsmax TV. You can watch for free right here on our YouTube live stream and be the first one here each time our experts break down real news. Just hit that subscribe button, ring the bell icon, and stay with us on America's fastest growing cable news channel, Newsmax TV.